drummers against implied timekeeping resonant side bass drum heads. I want to discuss just a little bit regarding the resonant side of your bass drum head, because of the advancements in technology have been just enormous. All the dampening materials and extra things that you can buy. But I want to give you a rule of thumb, depending on the size of your bass drum, what's the best resonant side bass drum heads to get and what to use. As a disclaimer, this is my opinion, so bear with me, okay? Now, historically, originally in the 20s and 30s, most of the drummers of that era used to have calfskin heads, and they used to use a giant bass drum muffler that attached to the front head, and it had strong dampening abilities. No question, I've seen them. I have not used it even when I was younger, but they were very good. You can see that in some of the old footages on YouTube. Around, I would say, the 50s, a felt strip came into play, maybe even before then. And the felt strip was fantastic. It went on the front of the head and it just went across the bass drum. And it's still used today, and I definitely like it. But with head technology and the changes that are taking place, there are so many different things you can go with. Especially around the rim of the resonant side of your bass drum head, they all have a little bit of muffling, so they're great. But there's a couple things I want to key in on, and one is the offset hole. I remember around 1973, the offset hole I had seen for the very first time on television on a live show. Steve Gadd had the very first bass drum hole I'd ever seen. It might have been used before, but I didn't see it. And he had a microphone sticking out of it with a cord. And I remember I had been playing drums maybe 6 years, and I was kind of shocked to see it because I didn't know exactly if that head would tear or something with the mic cord right on it. But he was the guy who did it first. And I lived in the New York City area during the time. And I think within 6 months after that, I started to see a lot of drummers use a hole in their front bass drum resonating side. Now, most of them, for some reason, I can't explain it, you would use a center hole. Just what happened in my area. They would use a center hole. It wouldn't be offset at, let's say, 5 or 7 o'clock. And it did have a unique popping sound. I don't see it anymore, but it was always about this big, 6 inches or so, maybe 18 centimeters. And it just popped because you're hitting the bass drum, your batter side, it would go, the sound and the air would go directly to the center. So it was unique. I don't see it anymore, but late 70s, a lot of guys did it that way. I started to do an off-center hole mid-70s on my bass drum. And as a rule of thumb, this is what on the offset hole, I definitely recommend it in certain instances. If you have an 18-inch bass drum, you do not need any offsetting hole for air movement. Let the head just be complete as it is. But on a 20-inch bass drum, I do recommend an offsetting air hole of about 8 centimeters or 3 inches. On a 22-inch bass drum, it should be maybe 10 centimeters, 4 inches. On a 24-inch bass drum, it should be 5 inches, give or take, or I'd say 12, 13 centimeters. And on a 26-inch bass drum, it should be, maybe 16, 18 centimeters or 6 inches, more or less. Nothing too big, though, all right? Because you want the front head to resonate and you want air to go through. If you have a 28-inch bass drum, you do not need a hole. Let it resonate. But I doubt many of you have a 28-inch bass drum. But this is a general rule of thumb to utilize the hole offset, not center, offset, and always lower for the ease of recording engineers and live performance. I have often seen some new things coming about, and one is a plastic kind of baffling for the hole. I think Evans makes it. I've used it once and I highly recommend it. It is fantastic because it allows projection of the air out of the hole. and it does make a difference. It's a little pricey, but if you can get that, definitely get that extending hole made of plastic. It's really good, especially if you're doing metal or rock or pop. It really makes the bass drum sing out. It punches it much better. If you're playing jazz or even fusion or lighter pop, you don't necessarily need that baffling extender. I forget who makes it. I think it's Evans, but it might be another company. But definitely look into that. So this is a general rule of thumb what to be looking for. All the manufacturers are always advancing the head technology. But I wanted to respond to someone's question regarding the resonance side of the bass drum head, because I'm definitely into bass drums. They're my favorite. And I enjoy experimenting with the heads, but they are expensive. So you want to key in on the most general application, because you don't know what style of music you're going to be playing if you're playing over the long haul. So that's generally what I think. If you have any direct and particular questions on your drums, feel free to ask me on YouTube, in the comments section, Facebook.com/drummers against implied timekeeping, Twitter.com/drummers against. And I want to say hello and welcome to everyone who's visiting. Every so often I do want to respond to those who are asking me these things, and take a look at my entire catalog. I have a very particular way of teaching in the open-handed position, which will enhance your power, independence, and creativity as a drummer. And if you haven't, subscribe, because your subscription is the inspiration for me to continue, and I thank you always. So again, this is the resonant side of the bass drum head, and some of the things that I think you should be shooting for. My best to all of you, and I look forward to showing you some of the things I'm coming up with. All right, my best. Take care.